You're listening to the Speaking Tongues podcast. I'm your host, El Charisse. Each week, I sit down to a conversation with multilinguals where we discuss and celebrate language, life, and culture through our own perspectives. Episode 148, Speaking Silbo Canario and Canarian Spanish. Welcome back to another episode of Speaking Tongues. I'm here today with Gara. How are you today, Gara?
I'm really excited. Thank you. And you?
I'm fantastic. And I can't believe that we're actually having this conversation. I'm so excited to learn from you today. And we have a lot to talk about. So,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely. I like to start each episode with the same question, and that is, what is your first language and which languages have you learned to speak?
My first language is Spanish, and I speak the Canarian dialect of Spanish. And I know English, and I'm learning other languages. I'm trying to learn whistle language. I'm learning French, but
Okay.
I'm not very good yet. And I'm learning Tamasir.
That's exciting. And I want you to know I'm learning French too, and I'm not very good yet either. So
Okay.
this is a safe space. Like French is hard. And learning
Yes.
Tamazigh, that's amazing. I'm really excited to talk about Silbo Canario. And I would love for you to talk to us a bit about the history of this language, of this whistle, and some of the culture.
Okay, this tradition comes from the ancient Canaries or Guanches that comes from North Africa, known as Maghreb or Damascus, and they were Amazigh or Berbers, and they come to seven of the islands, known nowadays as El Hierro Island, La Gomera, La Palma, Tenerife, Gran Canaria, Fuerteventura, and Lanzarote.
Okay.
And the first document that mentions this tradition, it was after the Spanish conquest in Canary Islands by Jean de Betancourt, and he said that on this island they talk with the lips as if they had no tongue. He was referring to the island of La Gomera Island, but later, Joseph Layard, he saw when passing through the island of El Hierro, I could immediately see that the scope of the whistle language was extended there. Later, I found some small differences between both islands. He was referring to La Gomera Island and El Hierro Island.
Okay.
Also in Tenerife, they said Abreu y Galindo in the 17th century, he said, and when they had war or a fight, they understood each other with smoke or a fire, and with whistles from a boat, they all called together and gathered together. So, by the chronist, the European chronist, we know that this tradition is very ancient and used in many islands, not only in La Gomera Island. And until nowadays, we still have old people from in El Hierro Island, La Gomera Island, Tenerife, and Gran Canaria Island that used to use this language. Still alive, I
Right.
mean, they still alive.
Yeah.
In the High Atlas in Morocco, there is a tribe that still use this Amazigh tradition
Mhm.
of speaking whistle language, but they do it in Tamazight. But we nowadays we whistled in Spanish in Canarian dialect.
You named the islands where people still speak it,
Mm,
whistle.
yes.
But there was one island that you started to say, but then you said they don't whistle there. Do you know why that is?
Yes, because we think that it was used to in La Palma Island. We think that it will be logical because this island is between El Hierro, La Palma, and Tenerife. So it's the logical thing is that they used to, but maybe they lost it earlier than us. And there is no records by chronists, but that doesn't mean that in that island there was not whistle language.
No, that makes sense. I would love to know about the whistle, El Silbo. Mainly, and I had to think about how I reframed this question because it's a whistle, it's not words. So,
Mm.
and I'm used to just asking about words. So, if I say speak, I mean whistle, and I'll correct myself if I catch myself. But is there a wrong way or a right way to whistle? How are the whistles formed? How do we whistle a whole sentence or a whole um, phrase that we want to use? Or what kind of things are we expressing when we're whistling to someone else?
Mm. It's like a tonal language, reducing it into the minimum expression because we have many consonants speaking. When we speak, we have a lot of consonants, but when we whistle, we have to reduce it into only like five sounds of consonants.
Okay.
So each consonant is into a group. When we whistle, we have kind of the sound k, ch, y, b, and g. So, for example, if I wanna say a word with T, okay, T, this consonant is in the group of ch. So when I whistle, instead of pronounce t, I pronounce ch. So that can make the whistle language very difficult to understand sometimes, but you can understand the message by the context. The
Okay.
context is very important. Also, when you have tonic vowel, what you do is to make the sound large to emphasize it. For example, the word Tomás, you will say it, Tomás.
Hmm.
Okay. I don't think there is an incorrect way to whistle as long as you can transmit the message, even if they don't understand you at first. They can ask you and you can answer them to explain them what are you talking about. There is many ways to whistle, even there is difference between islands and the part of the islands depends on the island. There is many postures that even even depends on the type of lips you have. You will tend to have more facilities with some postures with the fingers than others. For example, I have large lips, so I'm not good at whistling like this with two. It's
Mm.
better for me with four because I have large lips, so it's more easier for me. Or I can whistle better with the fingers like this
Okay.
because it's more large.
Yeah. Where do you put your finger on your lip when you whistle? Because I I can't whistle.
Okay.
So I'm trying to think about if I were in Tenerife and you wanted to teach me, how to communicate with someone, and I'm like, where would you put your finger? Where would those postures be?
On the tongue
Okay.
and the point on the point of the tongue, the same with this. We do a little pressure on the tongue. Some people that have more tiny or short lips, they can whistle like this or like this even, but I can't. I
Mm,
can't. I need more
more space.
yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting. So it really depends on the whistler, El Silvador, like their preference on where
Mm,
they want to, like how they feel comfortable.
yes.
Oh, okay. If you're reducing the sounds so that you can just understand from the context, Is the kind of information that people are whistling, is it just stuff that is it information that's just very important? Calling to someone far away because they need to know something right now.
Important things.
Okay.
They use it for important things and short message.
Okay.
The best thing of this way of communication is that you can do it in any language. So even you can whistle in English. I'm not going to try, but because that's will be very difficult for me.
Mhm.
But you could do it too.
That is fascinating to me. When you started talking about the history of the whistling and
Mhm.
the recorded people who recorded it being whistled, this is in the 17th century. Was there a time period when people stopped using the whistle, and why did that happen? Do you know?
That was in my parents' generation. It was because this way of communication was the tool of poor people. Because in the vast majority of us were people that used to work hard in the fields, and some of them also were shippers. This was the people that used the whistle language. So rich people didn't.
Mm,
They didn't need it to use it.
yeah.
So they used to say things like, come to eat, or bring me the sheep or goats, things like this.
And then people stopped using it because they were not working in the fields anymore.
Most of them didn't work on the fields anymore. Also, there was a lot of migration from Canary Islands to South America when some countries were rich. So they didn't practice it
Mm,
there. For example, one of my parents born in Venezuela. Many people went abroad, and some of the generation of my parents was born in South America.
okay. So what's happening now with the whistle? Are people trying to learn it again? Are people trying to revive the culture, the whistle language?
Yes, we're trying to learn it again, and some people are really, really, really good at it, even from my age.
Is that something that people come to Las Canarias to experience, like tourists? Is it something that tourists want to hear and they want to see when they come visit Tenerife or?
Honestly, no, because they come here just for the beaches, the good weather. Most of them, they are not interested in our culture and our traditions. Also, I think that the the generation of my grandparents didn't value at all this tradition. I don't think they value it at all because as it was something for necessity, not because it was not seen as something cool
Hmm.
or something like that. It was done for necessity. They didn't transmit it very well to their children.
Mm.
That's what I think. But new generations, I think they are valuing more the traditions. And so we want it back.
You actually mentioned this that different islands, there are different whistles, in what you've been around and what you've been exposed to or what you've heard. Have you noticed the whistles being different? And if you do, how different are they between
Okay.
islands?
For example, the Canarian dialect between islands are little different, sometimes because of words. In La Gomera Island, for example, when they whistle, for saying you in plural, they use the word vosotros. But in El Hierro Island, they use the word ustedes. It's
Okay.
the same meaning, but different words. And for example, when you wanna call when you want to call someone in El Hierro Island, they say oye, él. They use the word oye,
Mm-hmm.
which means hey. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And in La Gomera Island, they used a L. See difference like this. I'm comparing the whistle from La Gomera Island and El Hierro Island because the one of La Gomera Island is more famous or known, and the one of El Hierro Island is the one I learned. Also, the one of El Hierro it's little more sharp than La Gomera Island, and in all island of El Hierro they whistle the same. But in La Gomera Island, there is a difference between the people from the area of mountains and people from the area of the coast.
Huh.
Apparently, in the mountain zones, the areas of the mountains, they whistle more slow than the coast, and people from the coast whistle more sharp than people from the mountains.
That makes sense. I guess because when you're up in the mountains, the echo maybe is different than it would be in a more
Yeah,
open place. So you have to adapt to,
yes, exactly.
yeah. So you learned and you are learning the whistle that's predominantly on El Hierro, right?
Yes.
Can you give us some examples of that whistle and maybe some things that you've learned to say so far, whatever you feel comfortable with, just so we have an idea of how it sounds?
Okay. I said, ven pa' acá and bueno, bueno. ¿Dónde estás? Where are you?
Ah, okay.
I were better.
No, I think it's great because you're learning and it's just as valuable that you're in this place where you're learning as if you were perfect and you've been doing it for years and years and years. Thanks for sharing those whistles. You talked a little bit about the whistling also in the Atlas Mountains in Morocco and how they whistle in Tamazight. What have you noticed about that way of whistling, or what do you know about how it's similar or different to what you hear in Las Canarias?
I tried to search about information about it, but I didn't find almost anything. I saw a video of a woman whistling in Atlas Mountains with four fingers like me. I think the only difference is the language. I whistle in Canarian dialect of Spanish and she whistles in Temesirt, but I don't think there is a difference between. Apart from that, I don't think there is a difference.
Okay, let's talk about Canadian Spanish then. Which I'm surprised to learn. I mean, maybe I'm not surprised, but obviously, like the way that you speak in the Canary Islands, like Las Canarias, would be different than anywhere else. And Spanish is so different everywhere, all over the world. I love it. It's so interesting to me always. But tell me some things about the way that Spanish is spoken in Las Canarias and what makes it distinct, what makes it special.
The dialect of Canary Islands is special because it has many words from the oldest or ancient Canaries, such as Bifo, the baby of the goat, Gopio, Goro, Tenique, and many more. We also have words from Portuguese, such as gaveta which means drawer, and millo, which means corn. And we have Portuguese words because the Portuguese were important in Canary Islands during the colonization and before the colonization. Also, as Canary Islands are a strategic point for trade, we also have English words, but
They're English words, but they're
yeah, yeah,
Spanish.
yes,
Yeah.
you understand me. For example, we have a kind of potato that it's very famous here, and we call it chinegua, but the original form was King Edward.
Oh,
We also eat popcorn. Popcorn in Tenerife, it's called cotufa, and cotufa means popcorn, and this word comes from corn to fry. Cotufa, corn to fry.
how
And
cool is that?
yes, and also because of the migration to Canary Island, sorry, because of the migration to South America, we bring some words from South America, such as guagua, which means bus, and it comes from Cuba.
I'm so glad you said that because I heard that it was the other way around. I heard that a lot of the Canadian people who migrated to the Caribbean, and I heard that it was Las Canarias who had the words moving to the Caribbean, not that the Caribbean words were coming to Las Canarias.
In that case of guagua, I think it's a Cuban or Caribbean word.
Okay. Tell us about the connection between the Spanish spoken in Las Canarias and the Tamazight language, or, the Amazigh people, or any connections that there are between those two.
Our ancestors, the ancient Canaries, came from the same origin than them. They were Amazigh, and they had the same, kinda the same language, very similar traditions, and they migrated from North Africa to Canary Islands. So we have many things in common, not only um, some words like water, because my ancestors used to say something, I'm not good at pronunciation, but something like amin, which means water, and they say it exactly like that. And apart from the language, we have many traditions like we call it nowadays Fiesta de los Carneros. This is kind of a carnival from El Hierro Island that is very similar to one in the south area in Morocco and also in parts of Kabylia in Algeria.
Wow.
We have, I know it was done in Algeria, in Kabylia, but nowadays, a Kabylian told me that nowadays they don't do it because they have fear or they are scared of the government. That was Kabylian said to me.
Mm.
But he recognized it and he said, we used to do this festival. The problem is that this festival it's pagan.
Mhm. The government doesn't want to recognize it because it's not about Jesus or Islam, or it's not about like a religion. It's more about
Yes.
the nature. It's, paganism.
Mm.
So,
It's about dressing with goat skin and the skull of the goat on the head.
mhm.
And in El Hierro Island, we paint the normal people with black paint. But in Algeria, they hit people. We have another festival here, very similar in Gran Canaria Island. not in El Hierro Island. And it's like this, they dress with good skin and they hit people too. Kind of the same.
Huh. And what's the name of it again?
In El Hierro Island is called Los Carneros de Tigaday.
Okay.
And the one if, of Gran Canaria, it's called Los Machos de la Aldea. I don't remember how it was called in Morocco, but I think in Algeria it was called Bilmaoun.
Oh, okay. And it's all the same,
Same origin.
similar, same origin. That's
Yes.
fascinating. Is there, like nowadays, is there a lot of influence from in the Spanish from Arabic? And I know a lot of words in Spanish come from Arabic in general, but do you notice any influence of like Moroccan into Canadian Spanish at all?
No, I. If you mean Arabic from Morocco, no, I haven't. I know we use some Arabic words because of Spanish people that conquest us and they already used it, but I don't think because Canary Islands were not allowed to, for many, many long time, to have contact with Morocco. In the past, they had trade and they used to contact a lot, very, very long ago. But dictator. There was a dictator that forbade us to have a contact for a long time with Morocco. So no, I haven't noticed.
What about with Spain? Do you like how does the Spanish spoken in Spain differ from what's spoken in Las Canarias? Or does it? Like, is there a huge difference or is it very, very small? Is it just accents are different? How does it look?
For me, it's huge difference, and not only in pronunciation and accent, because us Canaries and Latin Americans or South Americans, we don't this make a
Distinction?
between Z, C, and S. So we all pronounce them as an S, all of them. But Spanish arts make a distinct,
That's a tough word. Distinction.
yes, between these words, and they have different pronunciations for them. We Canaries and Latin Americans, we pronounce it as an S. And when we have a final consonant, we Canaries and Latin Americans, we don't pronounce that final consonant. In the case that that consonant is a Z or an S, I'm going to give you an example. Merry Christmas in Spanish, in Spanish from Spain, it will sound something. I'm going to try. It will sound something like Feliz Navidad, something like that.
Okay.
Feliz Navidad, something like that. So, feliz, the final sound is set, but we will pronounce it as feliz.
Feliz.
We will,
Okay.
yeah, we will do that sound, yeah, that sound. And Christmas, Navidad, the final words is T, and we don't pronounce it at all. So we say Feliz Navidad.
That's it.
Yes,
Yeah, now
it's
that you say that, it's very similar to what I've heard people from Latin America or the Caribbean
yes.
say. Yeah. Why have I not been to Las Canarias before? Gotta.
I don't know, but if you come, it will be very nice. And also, we Canaries and Latin Americans in general, we use ustedes for you in plural, but the Spanish arts use vosotros form.
Yeah, so that's interesting. Like you said, that there's one island that when they whistle, they they whistle vosotros, and the
Mm,
others whistle
yes,
ustedes. So
yeah.
do you think that's maybe more influence, like more people there had more contact with Spain? Do those people who whistle on that island, they whistle um vosotros? Are those people, like, do they speak Spanish differently? Do they speak Spanish more like they do in Spain than they do in Las Canarias or not?
They have the same accent as us and the same pronunciation as us on the words, just that they when they whistle, they use vosotros. But in general, in Canary Islands, in the vast majority of people in the eight islands, they use ustedes, sorry.
Oh.
They used ustedes. I don't know why the people from La Gomera, not all, but the majority of them, we whistle it as vosotros. I don't know why. And now that we are talking about the whistle language, I wanted to say the necessity of communicate by whistling language, not only in Canary Islands, but in other parts of the world. I think in some parts of Turkey, they also have whistle language. It emerged in lands where there is a lot of verticality, like mountains and ravines, like the case of Canary Islands that are full of mountains and ravines. I wanted to say a testimony of uh, of a man called Luciano Eloy Quintero Padrón, long name. He say I was 8 years old or nine, maybe, when I was with my father in the Coron in El Hierro Island fishing. Okay, he was in the coast fishing with his father. And my father said, they are whistling down there. Your grandmother died.
Oh my God.
And it was true. It was true. There were people whistling up there, and yes,
What year was this?
I don't know which year, but this man is alive, and he's not that old. He's not that old. Maybe he's 70 years old, maybe.
Mhm. Now, how did he know, or maybe you could fill in the context, but if someone's whistling that someone's just died, how do you know if they're talking to you?
They are not talking to you, they are talking to everyone. Because in
Oh.
the past, yes, in the past, they announce, sometimes they use the whistle language to say things to the community or the town, the entire town. So surely they found the grandmother died and they started announce it, announce the new, because it's supposed that the whole town knows her or knew her. So they had to go to the funeral and all these things.
So there's a big sense of community if you're
Yes.
sharing that information. When the language kind of stopped being used, did that change the way that people behaved or acted toward one another within community? Was the community still very close, or did people begin to drift apart?
As the whistle language stopped and for a time, and more people from outside came here to live. This sense of community is getting lost, not especially in El Hierro Island because it's a small island and more or less, they know each other, everyone in the island, everyone.
Mhm.
Maybe that's why in Tenerife and Gran Canaria there are less people that knew or know whistle language. Maybe that's why, because more and more people from outside, especially came here to Tenerife, Gran Canaria, and In these islands is where it disappeared the most.
Mm.
In Tenerife Island, in Gran Canaria Island, nowadays we don't know each other because there are too many people nowadays. No community feeling, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It feels like that like everywhere. Like people and maybe also because now everything is on your phone, everything's online. So it's hard to really get to know people in person too.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're learning, and I assume that other people are learning, other people around your age are learning. How are you doing it? Are you taking classes? Are you learning independently? Are there people in the community who or people in the, in Tenerife who are teaching how to whistle and teaching the whistles? Like how are you learning it now?
I took classes on a little island. I sometimes I practice with these people that taught me online by WhatsApp because now I'm not in a little island anymore. I'm in Tenerife. And sometimes they send me an audio and I have to understand what are they saying and I translate it into a text message or I send them a voice message trying to whistle it. And also, I have a friend that is so good from Gran Canaria Island. He's so good at whistling, which I always understand him perfectly. And he also sends me videos of him whistling, and I try to copy him or like do it like him. So now I'm learning by my own. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. It's more difficult than it seems from outside. And I know that in many islands there are some associations and centers, public centers, where you can go and join to classes for whistling language. And for example, I am currently in Tejina, Tejina city or town, and in the public center here, there are classes.
Are they free?
No, they are not free. In the public centers, it's not free, but the associations like Silbo or Yo Silbo, as far they are free. As far as I know, the first one is totally free. Yo Silbo, I think it's free too. I think they just say we will meet in that place, public space, okay? We will meet there, and if you want to go, you can go and join with no compromise or not. So you can go and receive classes for free. They these associations that have no money from the state or the government only do it because they are concerned.
Well, I hope that you'll have a chance to continue learning, and maybe you can go to the place in your city that offers it. And that's so exciting that their opportunity exists.
Yes,
Yeah. Gara, thank you so much for this conversation. I had so much fun talking with you.
the same. It's a pleasure for me.
I like to end each conversation with the same question just to have some fun. Do you have any jokes, popular sayings, tongue twisters, cool slang words, idioms, words of wisdom, or words of advice in
Okay.
Silbo Canario or in Canarian Spanish to share and to teach us?
Not in whistle language because it was used for serious messages, but we in the speaking, yes, we have. For example, ¿Ande vas tú, machango? We say it more like ¿Ande vas tú, machango? More like this is funny. Means like, Where are you going, stupid? um,
Can you teach me how to say it?
Ande,
Ande,
bah,
ba,
bah,
bah,
tú,
tu,
machango.
machango. Ande
Mhm.
ba, tu machango.
Now say it, but angry.
Ande ba, tu machango.
Perfect.
Thank you for sharing that. And this has been such a fun conversation. And thank you for sharing your culture and your language and all these meaningful parts of your culture with us. I really appreciate it.
I really appreciate your work. It's amazing.
Thank
Really.
you. Thank you so much. Before I let you go, just one quick last question. If you're in Tenerife, you've been hanging out, talking to someone for quite a while, but now it's time for one of you to go home. What's the best way? What's the best way in Canadian Spanish to say goodbye?
Bueno, ten un buen día.
Bueno,
Ten un buen día.
ten un buen día.
Yeah. Well, have a nice day.
Bueno, ten un buen día. Gara. Gracias. Thank you so much for this conversation, and I will be talking to you soon. New episodes of Speaking Tongues are available every Monday, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and to like and share episodes with other language lovers just like ourselves.